Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have Janice Thompson with us. And Janice is an author, first-time novelist, and she has written Dry Tinder. You'd feel this. I love the feel of this. Did you publish this yourself?
I did.
Oh, it's nice and hard, and it's nice and thick. And let me tell you, the picture on the front, did you do that? Did you?
My sister, who's a professional artist, did for me.
It's the Dry Tinder is a tale of rivalry and injustice in Salem Village. So we're going to talk a lot about this. First of all, Janice lives in Maine, and she's from Ashland. And she lives on a 200-year-old farmhouse. She has 4 chickens. Correct me if I'm wrong. 4 chickens, a hubby, a rabbit, a cat, and she has a son in college, majoring in art. Let me see. You are also the founder of the Harpswell News. Is that a paper that's famous up there now?
I don't know if it's famous, but it's a local paper that had been around for 25 years.
There in Canada, in Maine.
In Harpswell, yes. The paper was there. It died in COVID.
Yeah.
And I put together a group of people. We started a new nonprofit organization to revive it as a nonprofit paper. So
where did you go to school?
I went to school in Union College in Schenectady, New York. I have an English degree. I have an MBA from Boston University.
Yep.
And I have a master's in elementary education from UMass Boston.
Did you teach?
I never taught.
No,
I have 4 sisters who are all teachers, and my dad was a teacher and my mom was a teacher. I come from a long line of public school teachers.
This is interesting because maybe when you were in high school, it seemed like the thing was all the girls had to go to college and major in elementary ed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you were, and if you went to a wonderful school like BBT, back then they were considered, oh, no, you got to go to college.
Yeah.
So of course I had to push and get to college. Elementary ed, I within probably the first month I was bored.
Mm-hmm.
But my roommate was an art major, and I'm art, and she was kind of funky. I said, you know something, I'm going to try that. I immediately dropped elementary ed without telling my parents and went right into art. Long story. So now, Janice, this is your first novel. When did you begin it? When did you write it?
Well, it took 20 years. It came from my moving to Ashland, Massachusetts with my then husband and very small child. And we bought a house that abutted the Ashland town forest, and there were trails, and it was beautiful. And the neighbors asked us pretty quickly after we moved, have you been out to the witch caves out back of your house? And I thought that was an urban legend, so I looked into it, and sure enough,
in
Ashland, yes. So the story is that there are these 3 sisters, the town sisters. One was Rebecca Nurse, Mary Esty, and people recognize those names. They're very famous in the witch trials. Sarah, who survived, is not so well known. Thomas Danforth, who was the deputy governor at the time, had overseen her examination early in the witch trials. So he's the one who put her into jail.
The one who died was who now?
Rebecca Nurse and Mary Esty are the 2 sisters who were among the 19 people who were
How come
hanged.
she survived?
Well, that's a good question. Once you got into the trials, you had to face your accuser. And so in order for you to go to trial, you have to they have to bring your accuser to trial, and they have to accuse you in court. Her accuser was some very distant cousin. So they didn't get her. They couldn't find her.
Yeah.
She disappeared.
Yeah.
So she just survived. So Sarah just survived. After the witch trials ended, the court came in and said, okay, you're okay. You can leave. You can leave. And Sarah was obviously bereft and distraught, and she was invited by Thomas Danforth with her extended family, and she was in her 50s at the time, to settle his lands called Danforth Farms, because he was a magistrate. He got a lot of land grants from the colony, from the government, but it wasn't, the acres were not settled. So this family came to Danforth Farms, and they settled there, and they incorporated the town of Framingham in 1700s.
I didn't know. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. So Framingham, the town of Framingham, was founded by these refugees from Salem, and they stayed in this outcropping of rocks in the Ashland Town Forest because they were there in January and they couldn't break ground to do a building. So they stayed there for that winter.
It was a very prejudgmental, harsh judgment of the Puritan faith back then. Boy, I'm telling you.
Yes.
The girls who were accused of the most incredible nonsense.
Yes.
It's hard to even show us what your map is. She did a great map of it's actually the cover of the book.
It's the cover, yes. So a lot of times the reason why I'm self-published is because the literary agents who were interested in this only wanted me to write about the witch trials, the screaming children, the screaming women, the birds are flying, the invisible birds flying. That's done and done in my mind. The true story, the interesting story for me, is what all of the context that built up to this hysteria. We often think of it as sort of an anomaly, some weird thing happening. It might be even witchcraft. There was no witchcraft, by the way. Even though Salem would like to tell you that there was, because they make a lot of money off of it. But there was a lot of unrest in this community, and so for generations. So that's why it's called dry tinder, because it became like a tinder box. One of the issues that went back over 50 years is, so this is the Ipswich River right here, Topsfield. Way down here, I don't know if you can see it, but way down here is Salem town. That's where people go when they go to Salem. They think it happened here. It actually happened here.
Disputed land.
Yes.
Now, what were they disputing?
Yes. So this was all Salem Village. This is what's now Danvers, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So this is the town family here. They started in Topsfield. The Putnam family and the Walcotts were settled here. They were all farmers. So the general court, but no money changed hands. They were just granted these acres by the government.
Sure.
So the government could come in and say, well, they're not your acres anymore.
Yeah.
So and it was not written down. So these people, the Putnams, led by the Putnams, said, this is our land. And the people who moved down from Topsfields and settled here said, no, this is our land.
I didn't know that there was a Putnam, Massachusetts.
No. This is all what was known as Salem Village. These are the farmers. This is the name of the
Putnam, Connecticut. I know that. Yeah.
The Putnam family were heavily behind the accusers. And the towns were part of the accused.
Yeah.
But they all thought that this land that was part of Salem Village belonged to their farms. So they were fighting back and forth for many, many years. And the general court first came in and said in 1639, this belongs to Salem Village. And then in 1652 came in and said, no, that belongs to these people. So even the court it changed its mind. So there was a lot of trouble between these families that went on for decades before the trials.
You did a fantastic job with that map. How long did it take you to make that?
Well, my sister Kathy Thompson Martin would have to answer that. She is a professional artist.
Maybe that's where your son has gotten the talent.
Maybe.
And your sister, right?
But yes, my son is studying art. So Kathy did this for me. And the reason why I carry it around with me is that it is it's illustrative of the issues. But in the book, I wanted to put the color map in it.
Yeah.
But I found out that if you would have one color page, it's as much as you're putting it in every page. It was prohibitively expensive.
This came right with the book when she sent it to me.
So if you buy
It's
it
the same
directly
thing you're
from
looking
me,
at.
yeah.
I think this is absolutely. Now, is this supposed to be a postcard?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I wanted to put the color map in there because you can't really see it on
But can you send it? I mean, there's no place to address it. There's not a postcard.
No, it's basically my card, and it's
your business card.
It's a bookmark. It's a bookmark.
It's a bookmark.
And that you can refer to it.
Well, I was just talking with, suggesting to Janice that, most everybody who watches the show knows that over at the Upton Town Library we have a dedicated local authors section, but you can have a blast. If you see some author on here and you like the sound of that book, go on over there and see if it's right there exhibited, and you can borrow it. Another great way to get the word out for Janice, because this book, it's so thick. I mean, to me it looks like it would have taken 10 years.
It took me 20 years to research.
But where did you find the time?
It wasn't full-time work. I'm a professional fundraiser by vocation.
You like to do that?
So I like to do it. It also makes me money. It's my career. So when I was writing this here, I was the director of advancement at the Boston Athenaeum in Boston, which is a 200-plus-year-old membership library. Had a lot of information that I could refer to. And then I was the director of advancement at the Meadowbrook School of Weston. And I was raising a child, and I was also, one of the things that led me to this story is that going back when I learned about these witch caves, I also learned that these people who founded the town had built their homes along a road that's actually called Salem End Road in Framingham, and that's why it's called Salem End. They all came. So they built their houses along this road. And I also found out that the house that Sarah and her husband Peter built had been derelict for over 15 years. It got all messed up in divorces and back taxes and liens and foreclosures, and it was just a mess. And it was one of the most important historic buildings in Framingham. So as a fundraiser, I got involved with that. And
it's still there?
It is. It's been preserved. Someone's living there now.
What year was it? 16?
We thought it was 1693. As part of the fundraising, we hired a forensic historian architect to come in and sort of poke around the house to say what's original and what's not. He discovered that it wasn't built in 1693. He thinks that it was the house that's built there now was built in 1776 on the foundation.
1776.
That Peter and Sarah built their house.
On the foundation of what used to be there.
That's what we believe. Yes.
We are talking with Janice Thompson, author of her first book, Dry Tinder. Janice, how can they reach you? Maybe have you come do a presentation?
Sure. My website is janicethompson.net. I also have a Facebook page that's Janice Thompson, author. I look forward to hearing from anyone about this book. I also have an e-blast that I send out maybe once every 2 or 3 months. And I could also be reached at jt@janicethompson.net. Because I'm self-published, I rely on wonderful programs like this to get the word out, and I love doing book talks, and I just did a book talk at the Ashland Historical Society yesterday, and it was great fun. And so, I'm sort of like with my traveling suitcase with my books in it.
Have you been to the Book Lovers Gourmet in Webster?
No.
Oh, I've got some news for you. I'll give you some hints afterwards.
Okay.
That's how do you get yourself out there? Just yourself, or do you have someone to help you to get?
No, it's just me. As a professional fundraising marketing person, I'm sort of using those skills to promote myself. Yeah. I would have loved to have it, work through a publishing company. But again, they didn't want the book that I wanted to write.
That's why I also serve as a publicist, and it's a lot easier than having to deal with a company.
Yeah,
got a person.
Yes.
I was reading at the back of her book about the witchcraft insanity. The hysteria grows from the extreme polarization struggles of the Salem village people at the time, including, here we go, boundary disputes, the harsh judgment of the Puritan faith, wars with the native tribes. You even had the Indians in on this.
Mm-hmm.
And the sometimes troubled relationships, oh yes, between the Massachusetts Bay Colony and Mother England. What did Mama England think of witchcraft?
Well, witchcraft was a capital crime in England at the time. They took all of their legal code from England. But when you read about the burning times, that was a good 100 years before this. There were witch trials all along in both places. So they drew their those laws from England, and it's based on, there was no division of church and state at the time, and in the Bible it says, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," and so that basically that's their legal code for it's got to be a capital crime. They have to be put to death.
Have you never met any relatives? Gosh, a long time ago, alive today, who were related in some way?
Many. Very good question. There are many. They are part of a genealogical group called the Town Family Association. It's TOWNE, which is the maiden name of all these three sisters. Mm-hmm. And these three sisters came from William and Joanna Town. They're the ones who came over from England in the 1630s, I believe. This is a very strong organization. If anybody is connected to these families, I so much encourage you to look it up, tfa.org. They have a membership list. They get together once a year as a reunion. I've been asked to speak to that group. They were very instrumental when we were raising money for the Clays House in Framingham. And they have a whole genealogical book that's been published.
How amazing. Did you have to do a lot of research?
Yes.
I can imagine. You probably hit that library quite a few times.
Well, and the thing is that, you said it's big. It's about 330 pages. It used to be 800 pages.
Why?
Because I went back even further.
Oh.
Like, what I wanted to know about was this time and place was so much based on this group of people coming here from England.
Yeah.
And so I also wanted to research what was happening in England that made them want to come here and then go back. So there was sort of different tranches, whatever the word is. There was what's going on in England, what's going on with the Massachusetts Bay Colony, what's going on in Salem, and then what's going on with these families. So I wanted to know all of it, to put it all in context.
It's not a difficult. Some pages, in some books are difficult reads. These are not. I like the way you spaced it.
Thank you.
I'm trying to find where the heck is chapter 1. There's chapter 2. One of my best friends, I was telling her in high school. I don't know if she even knows if I existed, but I was at the reunion, but maybe I didn't recognize her, but her last name was Town, Towne.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember she used to get teased a lot, but when I saw that name, I said, oh my God, I wonder if she is related.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard the name before.
Oh, interesting.
Never.
Interesting.
Now, on the back of this book, I love the way that Janice writes this. Dry Tinder is an historical novel based on the true story of the Town sisters, 3 innocent, godly women who are falsely accused of witchcraft in 1692. It offers a new perspective as the narrative starts in 1690, even before all the big deal was going on. A full 23 years before young girls began accusing their elders of witchcraft. The trials are not a strange anomaly of history. Were the children possessed? Did witchcraft actually run rampant in Salem Village? Was it something strange that just happened? Instead, told through the perspective of Sarah Town, the story becomes personal, and the hysteria grows from the extreme polarization and struggles of the Salem Village people at the time, and it goes on about that. It must have been one of the most tense, nervous, anxious places to live in the world.
Does it remind you of anything?
Huh?
Does it remind you of anything going on maybe today?
Yeah.
A bit?
Well, in general, especially after the last election, yes. I don't know about anything like witchcraft, though.
No. It's basically, there's a line in the book about, it says something like, when you live in fear and anger and distrust, you tend to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
So, because you're acting out of that stress. And even though, I mean, it's totally different now, obviously, but it is a depiction of a community in crisis. Because they couldn't agree on too many things. The minister, a lot of times in colonial America, ministers would come for life, at least 10 years. And this, one faction would get a minister in, another faction wouldn't like that minister, so he'd be outed. Then this faction would bring in their minister, this group didn't like it, so he'd be outed. And so when you don't even have a spiritual leader that you can agree on, it can be dangerous.
Didn't the ministers tend to leave? Did they leave a little quicker than average?
Well, in this town, they did.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. They left, these ministers, by the time the witchcraft hysteria started, I think that was their fourth minister.
They were all Protestant ministers, right?
Yes.
Catholicism was not a biggie back then.
No, that was evil. They call them the papists. They hated the Catholics, and they hated the Quakers.
And the Quakers, too?
The Quakers would be run out. Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What did they think of the Jewish people? Or wasn't that even around then?
I have not even read anything about Jewish people at the time.
Isn't that
but and they actually weren't called they didn't call themselves Puritans. Puritan is a pejorative.
Yeah.
And they called themselves the chosen ones, the people of God. They didn't call themselves Puritans. We call them Puritans, but they didn't.
In any way, shape, or form, is this in any relation to out in Plymouth, Pilgrims? Anyway?
There were two completely different communities.
Yeah.
And they were similar, but it was different.
Did this scoot up towards Boston eventually?
Oh yeah, it was all. So Salem was the capital at the time, but Boston was huge. I mean, that's where all the magistrates were.
But was Boston the capital of Massachusetts back then?
Oh gosh, I believe at that time. I think it was. Salem was in the beginning, but then it moved to Boston. Okay. I don't know when that happened actually.
Now, I grew up in the western part of the state near Springfield, Wilbraham. Had it gotten down there? Because I never heard about it.
No, it was, there were communities on the North Shore they went into Andover, Beverly, Wenham,
Swampscott,
Marblehead, Swampscott, but they didn't go further than that. That was sort of like the hinterlands.
What about Hingham?
Oh, Hingham was that was too far away.
Too far away. My parents lived in Hingham for a while.
Yeah.
There's Canton.
Yeah, that's on the South Shore. Yeah. So it was on the North Shore.
And it didn't hit the Cape at all.
No.
Isn't that now with Provincetown? You'd think anything goes.
Well, now you do. 200 or 300 years ago, it was probably much different.
So, what you think that every young girl lived in fear of whether she would be pointed at the finger, or that she was in fear of someone coming after her? I don't know how to put it.
Yeah, no, I get
it.
It's a good question. So there have been a lot of theories about what was ailing these young girls. People talk about Tituba, who was Reverend Parris's slave, who sort of taught them voodoo. There's talk about it was ergot poisoning of the wheat that they would eat. And then there was also people who believe that there was actually witchcraft going on. And this is not my original theory. A lot has been written about the witch trials in academia, in sort of nonfiction, scholarly books, which I drew a lot from. And there's a lot written, so that's nice. But this is a theory that has been promoted by scholars, but I believe that these girls had PTSD. So
yeah.
a lot of them had. So it was the Massachusetts Bay Colony that was around Salem and Boston, but the Massachusetts Bay Colony went up to what's now Maine. It was called the District of Maine at the time.
Yeah.
So this is where these little settlements would go. They go to Wells and Biddeford and Popham Beach, and they would be set upon by the Native Americans, because there was the English and the French were at each other's throats back home, and the French were providing guns to these Indians in the District of Maine to get the English settlers out of there.
Janice, we have just a couple minutes left.
Sure.
I was going to ask you now, where are you going to be appearing next?
Let's see, what's next? I'm actually coming, it's not for a while, this sort of ends my fall tour. But I believe it's April 3rd. I'm going to be giving a talk at the Framingham History Center.
The History Center?
The History Center in Framingham.
Have you heard of Tatnuck?
Oh yes, I've done a book talk there.
You did?
And the book is available at Tatnuck.
Very good. Okay,
Yep.
they're tops, and there's other ones too.
And there's also, it's up in the Salem Witch Museum, and it's also, you can get it online on Amazon.
That's good. One more time, how can they get a hold of you and get your book?
Sure. My website is janicethompson.net, JANICETHOMPSON.net. My email address is jt@janicethompson.net. So please get in touch with me. I sell them myself. I do book talks, I do signings. You can also get it online on Amazon. And I ask people who buy it on Amazon, if you like it, write me a review. That would be great.
That's terrific.
That's the way to get to the next. Like I'm with my own sort of connections now, but to get it to the next step, I need those reviews.
How far will you travel, Janice? What's your limit?
I would say New England, but I've also done book talks and with book groups online on Zoom.
Really?
On Zoom, yes. And so I've done those, and that have been much further away.
I prefer meeting the author in person.
Yes.
I like that.
I love the book talks, the book groups the most. The book signings are nice, but you have to sit there and you have to do the sales stuff.
Yeah.
The interviews are great because you could just talk.
Yeah,
the book talks are great.
The presentation is good. You could tell everything you know. Yeah.
Well, thank you. But my favorite are the book groups. Because they've read the book and they come with really great questions.
Oh yeah.
And I always learn something.
At different libraries, the different. Oh gosh.
Yes.
We're going to sign up. Janice, before we go, is there another book coming? Uh-oh.
No, not necessarily about this though. Originally, I was putting the chapters together with the real chapters of Saving the House.
But of anything else, though? Any other type of novel or mystery?
It might be more of a memoir next
Your
time.
own memoir?
Maybe.
Oh, that sounds good.
Though I have started getting the bug of local history up in Harpswell, and it goes very deep. It's a fishing community.
Be sure to let me know so we can get you on and get your book out there. Go on over to the Upton Town Library. Go in and say that you would like to read Dry Tinder, and Janice Thompson was just on the show, and most likely you will find it, if they've had time to put it on the shelf for the local authors, dedicated shelf. And
let me just interrupt you with that too. That's the way that I got into Tatnuck, because a fan wanted to buy it, a local fan, and she went in to Tatnuck, and so Tatnuck not only bought the books from me, but invited me to a book talk. So that would be great.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us. Have a good trip. When are you going back to?
I'm heading back today.
To Maine?
To Maine.
How long does that take you?
From here, it's about 3 hours.
Oh, do you stop?
No,
eat?
No.
You just go right through.
Yes.
You wouldn't want me as your pig. No, I'm a bad long-distance traveler, but what I'm telling you, I am the worst. I have got to get out, maybe get a little something to eat, maybe go to a little store. It can't look like one long thing. I was like that as a child.
He's pointed to you.
All right, you. Well, you take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.